The 2025 season is over, at least for the St. Louis Cardinals. And with that, John Mozeliak's time in St. Louis is also over. For nearly 2 decades, Mozeliak has been the face of the St. Louis front office, guiding the franchise through constant change and keeping the team competitive year after year. But now the Cardinals are entering a new era. Now, Chaim Bloom takes over as the Cardinals' new president of baseball operations, bringing his own philosophy and vision to St. Louis. But before we look ahead to what Bloom might do, it's worth pausing to look back at how Mozeliak built his reputation in the first place. Because while some fans today remember him for recent frustrations, going on and on about patience, or not making that one big splash, his early years as general manager were marked by bold, creative trades that helped define the 2010s as juggernaut years in St. Louis. So in this video, we're going to walk through John Mozeliak's trade history from his very first offseason in 2007 through the end of the 2015 season, highlighting the moves that shaped a championship roster and cemented his legacy as a future Cardinals Hall of Famer. Mozeliak was promoted to general manager in October 2007, following a disappointing season and the dismissal of longtime general manager Walt Jocketty. His first offseason was busy. Almost immediately, he made headlines by trading away franchise cornerstone Jim Edmonds to the San Diego Padres. The Cardinals received a little-known third base prospect named David Freese. At the time, it looked like nothing more than a salary dump of an aging center fielder. Edmonds' short stint in San Diego was a complete disaster as he played just 26 games for them and recorded a .498 OPS before being released at the start of May. But of course, Freese became a cornerstone player for several years and the hometown hero who carried the Cardinals to the 2011 World Series within one of the most legendary postseasons in MLB history, a clear win for the Cardinals. From day one, Mozeliak struck gold. A few months later, in December, Mozeliak flipped another franchise icon, Scott Rowland, to the Toronto Blue Jays for Troy Glaus. This move was simply a one-for-one swap of injury-prone third basemen late in their careers. Troy Glaus gave the Cardinals a fantastic season in 2007, recording an .856 OPS and a 4.4 wins above replacement, but missed most of 2008 due to injury. Rowland wasn't as productive in his first year in Toronto, but a strong first half in 2008 earned him a trade to Cincinnati and a deal that would net the Blue Jays' future cornerstone bat Edwin Encarnacion. 2008 itself was a relatively quiet year. Despite winning 86 games, the Cardinals finished just 4th in the NL Central and missed the playoffs for the second straight year. Mo made a few marginal moves throughout the season, but nothing worth noting in this video. 2009, however, was when the Cardinals truly returned to NL Central dominance. They hung around in the division race long enough until the trade deadline, where Mozeliak made his biggest splash yet. But before that, he acquired infielder Mark DeRosa from the Cleveland Indians for relievers Chris Perez and Jess Todd. Todd was a player to be named later and didn't amount to much, but Perez would end up becoming a reliable closer who made 2 All-Star teams in 2011 and 2012. They also got outfielder Julio Lugo from the Red Sox for Chris Duncan. Lugo would provide solid outfield depth for the rest of the 2009 season, while Duncan would never play in Boston after struggling in AAA. Last, and certainly not least, the Cardinals acquired Matt Holliday from the Oakland Athletics in exchange for Brett Wallace, Shane Peterson, and Clayton Mortensen. At the time, Wallace was considered the future at third base, but Holliday instantly transformed the heart of the Cardinals order. He recorded a 1,023 OPS after arriving in St. Louis, leading the Cardinals to a 20-8 record in August, locking up the division title for good. Following the 2009 season, he re-signed on a massive extension and became one of the defining players of Mozeliak's golden era. The prospects Oakland acquired didn't amount to much either, as the headliner of the package, Wallace, wouldn't even debut with the A's, while Peterson and Mortensen totaled just 9 total appearances in the green and gold. At this point in his career, Mozeliak wasn't afraid to take huge swings, and he certainly knocked this one out of the park. While the Cardinals missed the postseason again in 2010, Mozeliak made some savvy moves that would be highly important to their championship run the following season. At the 2010 deadline, the Cardinals traded fan favorite outfielder Ryan Ludwig to the San Diego Padres as part of a 3-team deal that netted them right-handed pitcher Jake Westbrook from the Cleveland Indians and left-handed pitching prospect Nick Greenwood from San Diego. Ultimately, the biggest winner of this trade was Cleveland, as they received a future 2-time Cy Young Award winner Corey Kluber from the Padres. The Cardinals still came out winners, though, since Ludwig fell off hard in San Diego, and while Greenwood wouldn't impact the Cardinals until 2014, Westbrook was a key component of the 2011 starting rotation. That offseason, the Cardinals would acquire infielder Ryan Theriot from the Dodgers for reliever Blake Hawksworth. Theriot's numbers weren't particularly awe-inspiring, and he committed a mind-blowing following 17 errors at shortstop, but he contributed a few key hits in the NLDS against the Phillies, made a great defensive play to rob Prince Fielder in the NLCS, and even hit leadoff in Game 7 of the 2011 World Series. Theriot was non-tendered the following offseason, but it was another victory for Mozeliak, as Hawksworth wasn't great in his lone season in Dodger Blue before a series of injuries ended his career. Then came 2011, the most important year of his front office career. Despite underperforming throughout the first half, Mozeliak decided to buy the deadline, where he dealt outfielder Colby Rasmus to the Toronto Blue Jays in an 8-player trade. The Cardinals received Edwin Jackson, Octavio Dotel, Mark Sepchinski, and Corey Patterson. At the time, many fans hated the move. Rasmus was a young outfielder with star potential. However, tensions between Rasmus and manager Tony La Russa and other off-the-field problems necessitated the trade. While Rasmus would record a 5-win season in 2013, he was otherwise a disappointing acquisition for Toronto, and perhaps the first of many what-ifs among the highly touted Cardinals prospects during Mo's tenure. Meanwhile, the depth arms Mozeliak acquired became absolutely critical down the stretch. Jackson was a reliable starter, and both Dotel and Sepchinski especially helped stabilize the bullpen. Without this controversial yet savvy trade, the 2011 Cardinals season would have fallen into obscurity instead of glory. At that same trade deadline, Mozeliak added another infielder from the Dodgers, shortstop Rafael Furcal, to make up for Ryan Theriot's poor defense. Furcal was yet another key contributor in the Cardinals' unlikely March to October, though he didn't swing the bat particularly well once they got there. The Cardinals re-signed him following the 2011 season, and while he missed all of 2013 due to Tommy John surgery, he earned an All-Star nod in 2012. All Mozeliak had to give up was outfielder Alex Castellanos, who only recorded 43 plate appearances at the major league level. Yet another win for Mozeliak's front office. Despite claiming a second championship in 6 years, the offseason following 2011 was perhaps the most turbulent of Mozeliak's career, with 2 Hall of Famers leaving the organization. Franchise icon Albert Pujols decided to leave St. Louis, signing a record contract with the Los Angeles Angels, and Tony La Russa retired from managing, at least for the time being. Despite all this, Mozeliak managed to field a competitive team by supplementing a strong roster with smart signings like Carlos Beltran. Mozeliak's first notable trade in 2012 was the acquisition of reliever Edward Mojica from the Miami Marlins at the trade deadline. Mojica rode a dominant second half in 2012 to an All-Star nod in 2013, assuming closer duties following an injury to incumbent Jason Mott and earning high leverage duties in the postseason. All it cost Mo was prospect Zach Cox, who never ended up earning a call to the show. From 2012 to 2013, Mozeliak kept his roster fresh, parting with a few key pieces from the 2011 roster. Skip Schumacher was shipped to the Dodgers and Mark Sepchinski to the Indians. Though the Cardinals didn't get anything notable back, it provided room for younger players with higher upside. The Cardinals also acquired John Axford from the Milwaukee Brewers after the 2013 trade deadline for Michael Blazek. Though Axford struggled in Milwaukee, the Cardinals quickly noticed that the right-hander was tipping his pitches, and he rebounded for a 1.74 ERA during his short stint in St. Louis. Blazek had a strong season for the Brewers in 2015, but otherwise didn't amount to much. After another pennant run in 2013, this time ultimately falling short, the Cardinals parted ways with 2 more key pieces from the 2011 championship, David Freese and Fernando Salas. Though Freese will forever be a fan favorite in St. Louis, a down year in 2013 following an All-Star 2012 season meant it was time to move on. Freese and Salas joined Albert Pujols in Anaheim, and the Cardinals received Peter Borges and Randall Grichuk in return. Both Freese and Salas were solid in Anaheim. Borges was productive in 2014 as a defensive first center fielder, but struggled a bit in 2015 and was waived the following offseason. Grichuk, an intriguing young outfielder, became the most productive player in the trade during the 4 seasons in St. Louis. He accrued 6.4 total WAR and had himself a nice career since. The Cardinals made another big move at the 2014 trade deadline, making a trade with the team that defeated them in the World Series just a year prior, sending fan favorite outfielder Alan Craig and right-hander Joe Kelly to Boston in exchange for John Lackey and Corey Luttrell. Both Craig and Kelly had their struggles with the Red Sox, and while Kelly successfully transitioned from a starter to a reliever, Craig was not as lucky. Craig was never the same after leaving St. Louis and was quickly out of baseball just 1 year later. Lackey quickly became a staple in the Cardinals' rotation. Though he struggled a bit after first arriving to St. Louis, he was dominant in 2015, finishing 9th in Cy Young voting. He was a huge part of the Cardinals' legendary 2015 rotation. Following their elimination in the 2014 NLCS, the Cardinals received the tragic news that their top outfield prospect, Oscar Taveras, was killed in a car accident in the Dominican Republic. This prompted Mozeliak to make a huge swing for Braves outfielder Jason Heyward. In addition to Heyward, the Cardinals received reliever Jordan Walden, but they had to part ways with an exciting young arm in Shelby Miller as well as prospect Tyrell Jenkins. Miller was an all-star for the Braves in 2015 before he was traded again, in a package that netted the Braves' future shortstop cornerstone, Dansby Swanson. However, due to a number of injuries, Miller never hit his ceiling in the league. Though he found some success as a bullpen arm since, he remains a painful what-if. On the other hand, Heyward provided the Cardinals with a career year in 2015, accruing 7 WAR with a solid bat and stellar defense. He won his 3rd Gold Glove that year and finished 15th in MVP voting before leaving St. Louis and signing a huge contract with the rival Cubs. At the 2015 trade deadline, Mozeliak made a few more moves to bolster the Cardinals roster, adding Steve Cishek from the Marlins for Kyle Barraclough, Brandon Moss from the Indians for Rob Kaminsky, and Jonathan Broxton from the Brewers for Malik Collymore. Ultimately, none of these moves were game-changing for either side, but adding a few solid relievers in Cishek and Broxton and a solid lefty bat in Moss helped the Cardinals narrowly win the NL Central with 100 wins. Unfortunately, the emerging young Chicago Cubs team defeated the Cardinals in the 2015 NLDS, foreshadowing a changing of the guard in the National League Central. The Cubs would go on to win their first World Series in over a century, and the gold standard for Mozeliak's Cardinals started to slip away. However, the first 8 seasons of Mo's tenure with the Cardinals can't be overlooked. Mo seemed to press all the right buttons to keep St. Louis in the World Series contention year after year. While he may have overstayed his welcome, he put together a legendary run of success. Love him or hate him, Mo has earned his future red jacket, and this stretch of championship baseball should certainly be celebrated. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. We put out an in-depth Cardinals podcast twice a week with other special content, including prospect coverage and other scripted videos like this. Be sure to be tuned in for next time, where we break down the fall of Mozeliak and his entire trade history from 2016 onward. We wanted to take a moment to thank our presenting sponsor, 314 Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're located at 9640 Olive Boulevard in Olivet, and they're open 10 to 5 Monday through Friday and 10 to 4 on Saturdays and Sundays. They buy, sell, and trade all sports cards and Pokemon cards, and they have the newest selections of packs, boxes, and single cards of local players and stars from around the league. Make sure you go check out 314 and let them know we sent you.